Hi, folks. This is Dr. Robert CYWES, and I get this question a lot. Today, we're going to talk about a concept that I've created out of all the noise regarding fasting and intermittent fasting, and etc. I call this segment effective fasting. Effective fasting. What does that mean? Well, the way the human body works, the human body evolutionarily has migrated more and more away from being a primary vegetarian intestinal tract to being more and more of an enzymatically based intestinal tract. In other words, we've moved more and more to eating an animal-based diet rather than a plant-based diet. We're not fully there like a lion or a tiger, but we're closer to animal-based than we are to plant-based. What does that mean? That means that it gives us a lot more free time to use the most important evolutionary development of being human, which for most people is their brain. Not always these days, but be that as it may. Herbivores, vegetarian animals, have to graze all the time. None of them sit down and eat a massive amount of vegetables in a few minutes and then go a long day without eating. So if you're on the vegetarian spectrum, if you're primarily, I'm not going to use the bullshit word plant-based. If you are primarily a herbivore eating a vegetarian diet, you have to eat often and you have to eat continuously and a massive bulk to get adequate nutrition in, and that takes on more of a grazing or a frequent eating pattern. The more animal-based you eat, the more carnivore you eat, the less often you have to eat because you're eating a much bigger amount of food with a much larger bang for buck per gram of food. Animal products are much more dense. And as we migrate toward that, it allows us to go longer periods of time throughout the day where we don't eat. So the average human should be eating once, maybe twice a day if they're eating mostly animal products. Now, here's what's so pathetic about us. As we've shifted back to more a vegetarian diet, and in fact not, and this is why I don't like the word plant-based, because very few people are on a plant-based diet. Most people are on a grain-based diet, and there's another episode specifically discussing that. Plant-based is a euphemism for what's really eating shit and calling it food, because it's manufactured crap that is primarily carbohydrates. And under those conditions, because your blood sugar is going up and down, you have to eat over and over and over throughout the day because you get hungry emotionally and viscerally whenever your blood sugar drops. Even if it's high and it's just doing this at 200 or it's going from 100 to 90, it doesn't matter. Those fluctuations in blood sugar drive us to eat, so we eat multiple meals a day. And as human beings, we're eating larger portions and more often than we ever have before, possibly even when we were more vegetarian. So we go very, very short periods of time without eating. We're almost always eating or drinking something. So when you look at fasting, there are two concepts. Now, therapeutic fasting to get healthier or better. That's the concept. That's what my buddy Jason Fung is promoting. And I love what he's done because he's really alerted us to this concept. But I want to put it into perspective. So there are two components. I've divided fasting into two separate components. One I call intermittent fasting. The other one I call extended fasting. And intermittent fasting is normal for humans. We've just forgotten how to do it. Intermittent fasting should not be a concept or a word. It should be part of who we are as humans, as carnivore-based omnivores. We should go long periods of time during the day where we don't eat, especially if we're eating animal products, high-fat animal products, because fat suppresses satiety, and we're getting enough if we're eating an animal-based diet. So intermittent fasting are the long periods of time that you don't eat during the day because you don't need to and you're full and you're not hungry. At least hunger from a visceral perspective, because the fat person's always emotionally hungry. Okay? So intermittent fasting should not be a thing once you're eating more of an omnicarnivore diet and you've let go of the carb shit that they feed us these days. And that's a ketogenic diet. So yes, we call it, oh, I fasted for 8 hours, or No, you didn't fast, you just didn't eat. But I understand the concept. It's something to be proud of up front. But whether you're eating 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day, that is normal for the human condition. We've just forgotten over the last 50 to 100 years what normal looks like. So intermittent fasting, timed eating, all of those are strategies to get us back to human normal. But eventually, once you're eating once or twice a day, it's not fasting, it's just not eating. My dog isn't fasting from this morning's breakfast to tonight's dinner. He's just not eating. But we've stored that and we're living on our stores, and then we're using that up and we fill it up again at the next meal. So intermittent fasting is great for rookies. It is unnecessary as a concept for our more veteran omnicarnivores. Once you get insulin sensitive, it's not necessary. It just becomes your new habit. And the key there is that a snack is always an emotional event. Engel cooler, doesn't leak. Plug. The point about it is that a snack is for this, it isn't a meal. So intermittent fasting is really a psychological change to eating, not a nutritional change to eating. Ha! See what I did there? That's a Howie Mandel thing. See what I did there? You see, intermittent fasting corrects emotional eating, not nutritional eating. When we say we're hungry, it has very little to do with our nutrition. It is primarily an emotional event. And my coffee that I'm about to sip on right now has nothing to do with nutritional hydration. It's a bridge to give me a few seconds break so that I can focus on the next segment. So you understand intermittent fasting as a vital thing for rookies to do to eliminate the emotional aspects of snacking. And going a long period of time where you're eating for the nutritional value of food, you're returning to the nutritional value of food, mostly animals, some plants, leafy plants, not carb shit, once or twice a day. Okay? That should be normal. And then if you use a bridge item like your coffee or something like that, for the mind cleansing moments, that's fine, because that contains no calories. Now, the other aspect of effective fasting is early on to restore insulin sensitivity, which is really the objective of ketogenic diet, to restore insulin sensitivity most robustly. What you want to be able to do is to deplete your liver of glycogen and possibly even slightly deplete your muscles of glycogen or reduce the amount of glycogen in your muscles so that you have to tap into your alternative stored fuel, which is your fat. And your fat can only be released effectively when your insulin level is low. So early on, we use extended fasts to empty the liver and partially empty the muscles. You can never empty them completely, but you can empty the liver pretty darn well, so that you have to use your own fat stores. And in order to do that, you have to lower slightly your insulin production. And the goal there is to hasten insulin sensitivity. So an extended fast allows us to do that. That's the primary objective. And the secondary objective is during that time, if you're burning that fat as a fuel source, you lose some weight. So everyone's latched onto, they're still stuck in the weight loss methodology of a ketogenic intermittent fasting. I'm going to lose weight, It's not about weight loss, folks. It's about hormonal restitution. It's about correcting the normal hormonal milieu in your body. So an extended fast, what is an extended fast beyond 24 hours? Typically 36 hours. So it's a whole day and then the next night. And extended fasting starts at 36 hours, but should never, in my opinion, be longer than 5 days. The benefit occurs usually begins to occur usually around 36 to 48 hours, where your hunger goes away, which means you're starting to use more fat. You get into ketosis by 48 to 72 hours, and then you ride that wave of ketosis where you're living on your own fat stores, and you are depleting your liver of sugar and you're depleting your muscles of glycogen, because the human body still needs sugar. And once you get out to about 4 or 5 days, 3 to 5 days, the objective is to run on a depleted glycogen in a depleted glycogen state for a while, but not for too long. Not for too long. So you're using your fat, and a little bit of the fat, the glycerol molecule, can be turned to sugar by the liver, but the liver then starts to run at a glucose deficit, because there are certain cells in your body that have to use sugar. And especially if you're still a rookie keto person who's still somewhat insulin resistant, your cells still prefer sugar to fat. You're trying to convert that. But there's still a huge demand for sugar. And if you go beyond the 3 to 5 day mark, certainly beyond 5 days, now you're having to break down structural aspects of your body for the production of sugar. And the most common part of your body that you break down in an unhealthy way, because you don't want to break this down, are your muscles. And your muscles are then converted to sugar by the liver to maintain your blood sugar at a very low level. So there is healthy restitution, rapid healthy restitution of insulin sensitivity. You accelerate that by an extended fast early on when you're a rookie. But once you start to become insulin sensitive, and it's so important to measure this in your ketogenic journey, that's something that we do a lot of in the office. We do a lot of blood work. Why? Because I want to see where you are on that journey. It's not one static way to do it. And my recommendations to you are going to be very different early to late in this journey. And I will tell you this, that it is not okay. It is not okay for my insulin sensitive keto carnivore veterans, especially my lean mass, which means skinny, lean mass carnivore veterans who exercise a decent amount. It is not okay, I believe biologically, to do extended fasts, to go longer than 24 hours without eating. We just don't have the hormonal capacity to not break down important structural elements of our body. And there's a point at which that threshold gets crossed. So effective fasting is not one thing. Effective fasting is several things in a continuum. The most challenging thing for the new person to the rookie keto part is to slowly start to build their intermittent fasts. So you try to push breakfast as deep into the day as you can. Then you just go all the way through to lunch, and then you maybe push lunch a little bit later. And then eventually you get to eat later in the day and maybe one meal a day. So you create that intermittent fast, not for the purpose of weight loss or the purpose of anything, but as a way to restore a normal human functional eating. Because that becomes the pattern of eating that I want you to continue to do. Intermittent fasting, eating 1 or 2 meals a day, is the holy grail of the first chapter of a ketogenic diet. And then you get to a point where you are now insulin sensitive. And then on certain days, you want to reverse that. You actually want to come back and eat 2, 3, or even 4 meals a day once you've lost your excess weight. Because you don't want to go long periods of time through the day where you're eating yourself. Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? So intermittent fasting has value. It has value for everybody long term. But for the rookies, it has value continuously. And then for my veterans, it has value in a cyclical fashion where you don't do it every day, but you do it some days. Extended fasts are of value to that intermediate group who conquered the intermittent fasting for the most part, and now they start to add extended fasts. Don't start with an extended fast, you'll crash and burn. And Extended fast should be things that you do on good days when you're feeling good about yourself. You get to do it, you don't have to do it. And you never set a timeline on your extended fast. Say, hey, I'm feeling great, I'm going to skip dinner tonight. I'm going to see how deep into my 5 days I can go. And if you get to 36 hours and you start to feel miserable, eat. Don't set, I have to do 48 hours. I have to do 72 hours. I'm going to do a 72-hour challenge. No, don't do that. Because it's unsustainable as a methodology if you feel awful. If you're feeling great, keep going. You said you were going to do 48 hours, and at 48 hours you're feeling wonderful. Push it back for another few hours. Not longer than 5 days. But extended fasts are for that middle group who've gotten the intermittent fasting going, and they now want to do a little bit more with a purpose of restoring normal human hormonal biology. So in order to do that, you've got to know where your hormonal biology is. And you can check your ketones, you can check your glucose, but it's better to look at your blood work, and we do that in our office. Once you get to the carnivore veteran or the keto veteran group, extended fasts are questionable. And so sometimes is intermittent fasting. So effective fasting is not one thing. It really depends on where you are biologically and what objectives you're trying to achieve, what milestones you're trying to achieve. There are no goals here. These are just milestones in a continuum of being healthier. So this is much, much more complex than one catchphrase or one gum-flapping expert on the internet. There's a process to fasting, incredibly valuable. I really call it not eating. But understand where you are and how best to apply it according to where you are. And that's where you do consults with us and we can give you that guidance. I am the Carb Addiction Doc. I help you to understand this from a substance abuse perspective and a correction of health, mental and physical, not just a weight loss perspective. Give us a shout if interested. You can text our bat phone at 561-517-0642, or you can call our office or email us. But set up a consult, we'll do your blood work, we'll have a more extended conversation. But effective fasting is much, much more complex than a soundbite. I hope this has helped. I hope you understand where you are. And please, please, please monitor your blood work, monitor where you are to apply fasting to where you are, not where you think you should be. I am the Carb Addiction Doc. Till next time. Read the show notes. Everything is in there.